What's up, everybody? It's Realistic with Realistic Productions doing another tutorial for SoundOracle.net. And in this video, I'm going to be going over a little bit of a discussion. I get asked a lot of times, what should come first? Should it be EQ or should it be the compressor? And there's a lot of different ways that you could go about this, and really there's no right or wrong when it comes to this, but I do got a couple little tricks and a couple things that you might want to consider of when you're choosing should the EQ come before the compressor or not. So we're just going to dive in and check a couple of those things out.
All right, so I got a short little tutorial today, just a little something. This is a discussion that gets brought up quite a bit of what you should do for your chain as far as should EQ or the compressor come first. And as I always say, these techniques and tricks and tips will work in any DAW. It doesn't have to be Pro Tools. And if you're capable of it, open up your DAW choice and do this along with me. You'll find that you gain a lot more out of this if you do it along with me instead of trying to remember it later. So the big question is EQ or compression first, and the thing about it is music is one of those special little exceptions where you can break all the rules and there's no absolutes. But I am going to give some good recommendations that not only do I really believe in, but I know a lot of experts really believe in this procedure. So what I recommend is you should do a little EQ sandwich. If you're doing stuff for like lead stuff, we'll get into parallel stuff later, but an EQ sandwich. So what I like to do is the first thing that I do is I like to cut with the EQ, right? And just cut some frequencies out before the compressor. And the reason why I like to do that is because I don't even want these frequencies in this audio source to begin with, so I don't want them to affect the compressor. So if these aren't in here, like this is the lead vocal right here, so at 821 and 2.3K and 3.5K, these are all frequencies that I'm really not satisfied with, and if they're in there, they're going to affect this compressor. So I want to make sure that they're out of there before it hits the compressor, so only the frequencies that I want in there are going to trigger the compressor. And then what I like to do after that is you can see my chain. I have the EQ and then I have some frequencies that I'm trying to get out with some de-essers and multiband before we even hit the compressor. Then afterwards, what I like to do is boost things. So you can see in this chains, the Psy Q and the Mag EQ here, this is where I'm boosting, and it comes after the compressor. So I'm boosting at 5.6, and then I'm also boosting a shelf at 10K right here, just a little bit here. And the reason why I like to boost after the compressor is, again, I don't want these boosted frequencies to trigger the compressor, because if they're boosted before the compressor, then this is going to influence the compressor a little bit more, and it's not going to compress more smooth and natural the way that I want it, because you're going to have this boost at 5.6 by 2 dB and then a half a dB. We're going to see boosting at 20K here. So again, I don't want those frequencies to mess with it. And so that's why I like to do it. So I'll just kind of show you kind of the result of how this sounds here.
I saw you across the room, but I didn't want you to assume.
Right, so let me kind of solo and move some things around here so then you can maybe hear the difference. They might be subtle, but again, just to kind of hear. So here's what it sounds like with the chain that I got now.
I saw you across the room.
Right, and now if I move some things around here, so now I'm going to cut afterwards.
I saw you across the room.
Versus,
I saw you.
and now I can show you too the difference here.
I saw you across the room.
So we're seeing the most that we get right there is reduction by 3 there, just to kind of pay attention to what it's doing differently.
I saw.
See, right away you can see there that it's already reducing 2 because I'm not having the frequencies cut out, right? Versus what I had earlier.
I saw.
See, that's only getting reduced by 1. So it is making a difference right there.
I saw you across the room.
And now we're going up by 4 dB, whereas before it was only reducing by 3 dB. And a lot of what's triggering it is this mid-range frequency here. So I can show you here what this frequency is. Let me bypass this compressor, and I'll boost this up by a lot so you can hear what I don't want in there.
I saw you. I saw you.
Right, so that's a frequency right there that is triggering that compressor. And same with this. This is something else that's in there that I don't want.
I saw you.
Right? And then the last one right here.
I saw you across the room.
All right, so that's why I like to cut before I compress. And now I'll show you why I like to boost after I compress, because I'll show you that this will make a little bit of a difference here. So when we're listening here,
I saw you
again, we're only seeing
across
1 to 3 right there versus if I move this after the chain.
I saw.
See, we're starting to see that reduction by 2.
I saw
And then over here,
across the
all the way up to 4, whereas before,
across the
it only maxes at 3. Now try to listen to the difference here.
across the room. Across the room.
It gets a little bit muddier with the compressor. It pushes, it pumps a little bit more, and that's not something I want for, especially this song. You hear this is more kind of an Ariana Grande type. I want things to be silky smooth on this. So now let me show you if I were to flip the chain all the way around here. Let's say that I boost. The first thing that I do is I boost, then I cut.
I saw you.
You know, you see that it's affecting the compressor differently.
I saw you across the room.
You know, we're seeing quite a bit of difference right there as far as gain reduction.
Across the room.
And you see, it really, it squeezes it, almost takes the life out a little bit.
Across the room.
You know, and then the fact that we're then finally cutting the frequencies out afterwards, it doesn't sound as smooth.
Across the room. Across the room.
So you can hear that that sounds a lot smoother. It sounds a lot better as far as how it's gonna gel inside of the mix and stuff too. Another thing too that I usually will do is before the compressor, just something to keep in mind, is I'll try to get frequencies out with multi-band compression and de-essers before I do a full compression on it. So here what I'm doing is I'm just eliminating that resonating frequencies that if you've watched my tutorial, you know that I hate. Again, that's frequency I don't want in there, so I don't want it to trigger the compressor. Another thing is I got a full de-esser on to get rid of the sibilance. I don't want that to trigger the compressor either.
That I saw you.
So right there, I don't want that to really affect the compressor. And then there's some frequencies that I'm using with the multi-band here. You know, I'm trying to compress those frequencies.
That I saw you.
So I don't want those in there. So again, I just want this to compress more about the dynamic range and to get a little tone and color, but I don't want anything that I don't want in there to affect it. But this is music, so there's always exceptions, and I can show you a couple little exceptions of when you might do something different. So an example of where you might want to use an EQ to cut after you've compressed is maybe at the end of your chain and you've already cut before the compressor, and then you've added some effects on there like a little saturation, some boost in EQ, the compressor's colored it. Maybe you might want to just add a little EQ way at the end of the chain and not do anything drastic. Just do a couple things to correct some of the coloring, because the coloring might have made it a little muddy. The saturation that I added might have added a little harshness. So I'll just kind of show you what you might want to do for cutting after the compressor as well.
saw you.
Right, so that gets a little sock in the mouth, as they call it right there. So I might want to take that out, not by much, maybe by almost a dB. And then two, since I've added a little bit of this saturation right here, this might make some of those resonating frequencies get a little harsh around 2K. So I might just want to take that out just a little bit. Again, not even a dB, and then kind of around that 4K range as well. I might want to take that out because distortion can get a little harsh around 4K.
I saw you.
You know, so I'll show you kind of what that sounds like.
I saw you across the room, but I didn't want you to assume.
You know, it's subtle. I went back and forth in and out, just little things to smooth it out and just kind of help clean it up a little bit. And I can show you a couple little exceptions of when you might do something different. And where I might do something different is I might do it as far as something like this right here. I got a kick drum duplicated here, right? And then here's what I duplicated. So something that I might do is if I'm doing some parallel stuff, I might actually want to boost and because I'm doing parallel. So the thing is I want things to be a little more aggressive and I want things to have more of that pumping feel. So what I might do for this kick drum is I might boost quite a bit. And then up top, right, so now I've boosted and now I do want to have a little bit more of an aggressive compression to it so it kind of pumps to give me that parallel compression for these kicks. So you hear how much like thicker and pumpier that sounds right there. Pumpier is actually a word. Versus if I were to flip this, right? And then I'll put this now back in front, right? So lets me get a little bit more of that flavor that I'm looking for that parallel, right? So without this, and then with it. Versus if we flip it. So I'll play it in the mix now and I'll go back and forth.
Didn't want you to assume.
Now flip it.
Didn't want you to assume.
So that might be an example. You know, you may or may not want to go with that route. For this particular song, I didn't want to go that route, but you can see that what I did do is I had distorted, and this kind of worked as a compressor here because I'm driving things, and this just has some natural compression to it, this plugin. It's getting compressed down. So what I want to do is I actually wanted to leave all the bad frequencies in there at first because I just wanted everything to kind of pump it. And then afterwards, I chose to just cut it and get rid of the things in the distortion chain that I didn't want. So that's an example when you might do it afterwards versus before. But typically, if it's not parallel, I like to go the route that I showed you earlier with those lead vocals. I just think that it sounds a lot better. that's just kind of a way that I get smooth vocals. Feel free to experiment with this, and as always, feel free to break the rules after you kind of learn them a little bit. Always experiment, but hopefully this helps, and hopefully you got a little bit out of this.
So I'm hoping that you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Hopefully there's some information that was useful. If you're getting a lot out of this but you want to see more, please feel free to comment below. Let us know what kind of tutorials that you want to see in the future, and Oracle and I can definitely make that happen. We're always trying to find the content that you want to see. If you're liking what you're hearing from me, you can find me everywhere on social media at Realistic Productions. You can find me at the web, realisticproductions.net. You can find my man SoundOracle everywhere at SoundOracle. And if you're looking for the best 808s, the best kicks, the best snares with the craziest loops and samples you can find on the internet right now, go to SoundOracle.net. Alright, till next time.